Once upon a time, there existed a spine-chilling legend that has plagued the hearts of many for generations. It is the harrowing tale of the Grey Man Ghost, a spectral entity whose origins can be traced back to a fateful sighting during the devastating hurricane of 1822, which struck North Island in Georgetown, South Carolina, neighboring Pawleys Island. However, the story that echoes most vividly among the locals harks back to 1865, during the waning days of the Civil War. One recurring element of this tale revolves around a man who answered the call to fight in 1861, donning the grey uniform of the Confederacy. Throughout his time away, he exchanged heartfelt letters with the woman he loved dearly. She was the daughter of a rice planter residing on the Waccamaw River, situated on the mainland side of Pawleys Island. In their letters, they expressed their deep affection for one another, and in one pivotal correspondence, he proposed marriage, to which she joyfully accepted. Knowing that the resolution of the conflict between the North and the South could take considerable time, she assured him in subsequent letters that she would patiently wait for his return. When news of the Confederacy's surrender reached him, he wrote to his beloved, proclaiming his intent to hasten home, aiming for the beginning of May. May, however, is not only the time when hopes are rekindled, but also the onset of hurricane season. Her family resided on Pawleys Island, and as was customary, plantation families would evacuate to the island between April and October. The rice fields would become infested with mosquitoes, breeding grounds for malaria, posing a greater threat than the occasional hurricanes. Upon receiving the final letter from her betrothed, she knew that his arrival could be imminent. He disclosed his plan to take a shortcut on horseback, bypassing the river and approaching her beach house from an adjacent island, hoping to find her waiting on the porch, dunes, or the beach. His anticipation to see her was unbearable. Accompanied by his former slave, the Confederate officer embarked on his journey up the beach of Pawleys Island, gradually making his way to the creek that separated the two barrier islands. Unbeknownst to him, the sand beneath the creek's surface was treacherously soft and deep. As his horse ventured further, the sand ensnared them both, gradually pulling them down. Desperate, he called out to his loyal companion, instructing him to find a limb or anything that could aid them. Yet on the open expanse of the barrier island's beach, no suitable limbs could be found. The only option left was for the officer to remove the bridle and reins from his horse, hoping to extend them towards his servant. Alas, they fell short, and the former slave could do nothing but watch in sorrow as his master met his watery demise in the sandy depths of the saltwater creek. Meanwhile, back on Pawleys Island, the officer's fiancée stood atop a dune, her gaze fixated on the brewing storm. Her family scurried within the house preparing to leave, yet she was determined to stay and convince them that the tempest approaching was not formidable enough to abandon the beach and return to the malaria-ridden rice plantation. As she peered towards Pawleys Island, her heart froze as she beheld the figure of her beloved, not on horseback but on foot, steadily making his way towards her. Her recognition was instantaneous, and filled with overwhelming joy, she rose from the dune and raced towards him. Her family, alerted by her cries, emerged onto the porch, eagerly anticipating the return of the Confederate officer. However, their eyes widened in confusion as they witnessed her return alone. Desperate for his embrace, she extended her arms, but he remained motionless, offering no wave, no embrace, not even quickening his pace to meet her halfway. Bewildered, she drew closer, only to pass through him, discovering that he was no longer there. She turned around and caught a fleeting glimpse of him, his arm outstretched, seemingly pointing towards the mainland. Bewilderment etched on her face. She recounted her encounter upon reuniting with her family, declaring, "I saw him. He was there," pointing to the mainland. Some family members dismissed her claims, attributing them to exhaustion or hallucination, despite her unwavering insistence that she had indeed witnessed him. He had donned his grey uniform and was making his way back to her. With little time to spare, they hastily gathered their belongings, loading the wagons and carriages. Horses, cows, chickens, and the remaining enslaved laborers from the past made their way across the south causeway of Pawleys Island, just before it succumbed to the rising waters of the impending hurricane. Yet, when the family finally returned to Pawleys Island a few days later, they discovered that their house, remarkably, still stood amidst the wreckage. It was one of the very few homes that had withstood the wrath of the storm, perhaps owing to the apparition they believed had warned them to leave the island unscathed. Throughout the years that followed, the tale of the Grey Man spread, permeating the hearts and minds of residents and vacationers on Pawleys Island. The Grey Man garnered national attention following Hurricane Hugo, when residents Jim and Clara Moore recounted their encounter with the mysterious figure on the beach during an interview for the television show Unsolved Mysteries in 1990. They shared their story of witnessing the spectral presence, which inexplicably vanished when they attempted to engage with it. Their house emerged relatively unscathed, while their neighbor's home suffered significant damage. The most recent sighting of the Grey Man was even captured on camera during Hurricane Florence in 2018. Over time, the Grey Man became a foreboding omen, signaling the imminent arrival of a storm. Some relied on official evacuation orders, while others sought solace in the sighting of the enigmatic Grey Man, believing that he held the key to determining the severity of the impending tempest. Nevertheless, the Grey Man remains an enigmatic figure, always appearing as expected, a ghostly spectral presence shrouded in grey. Few can recount distinct human features or clothing, as he materializes along the beach, a phantom figure during grey skies, turbulent waves, and gusting winds that cause the tides to surge. The Grey Man is silent, offering no words of warning. In some iterations of the tale, he points towards the mainland, while in others, he merely materializes. Since 1822, the Grey Man has appeared, foretelling the arrival of impending storms. Should one heed his warning and evacuate, not only may their life be spared, but there is a fervent belief that their house too will be shielded from harm's grasp.